All right, Scott, this is part 2. We're going to get into exactly what's going to happen with this Pujols Foundation. But before they do, they need to remember to
like and subscribe.
And we got to give some credence to our sponsors. So make sure that you guys check out Andy McCallum at Resource One, 636-458-1798. And by the way, he became a grandfather yesterday and got a text from his son. So congrats on that. And then don't forget to check out Chris with CS Design at 573-436-3717. With that, we hope that you enjoyed this next segment of the interview with Todd Perry of the Pujols Foundation. So obviously you meet Albert, and I don't want to rewind all that, but how does the foundation come about? How does that? Because we want to get going a little bit about the foundation, but let's get back to truths. Was it an idea that you guys discussed? Was it Dee that came up with it at the time? How does that?
No, I had seen, I met them through Christian Family Day the first time, and then they started going to church with us, and so I got to know them, and we were more acquaintances,
right,
than friends. But over a couple of years, I guess I just saw them being pulled in 50 different directions, and I had a friend that taught nonprofit marketing, and I just remember mowing my grass one day, and I was, I guess the bow on the career story. In my new job, I'm the creative director. Then all of a sudden we're in meetings, and it's just like, well, have you tried this or this or this? And the president's like, well, you know a little bit about product development, don't you? Well, yeah. And then all of a sudden now I'm doing more product development. And then by the time I left, I was a VP with marketing, product development, new media, graphic design. I mean, I had all of this now on my plate again. And I'm looking at the president's office, which is down the hall. And I'm like, I don't want that. I mean, this was the train I was on. And here I am again. And so I was kind of struggling with, what's next? What do I really want to do with my life? What am I, and the book Halftime, which is, it's in a nutshell, it's about turning 40. And, if our life expectancy is 80, then the 40-year mark is when we go in the locker room and we say, hey, here's what the first 40 year was about, which is me. And what's the next 40 years going to be about? And if it's still me, I guess that's okay. But for me, it was like, maybe it's not going to be about me. And I really kind of had all that kind of bouncing around my head, and I was mowing the grass, and I was thinking, what would you really, and I kind of went all George Costanza, and I'm like, whoa, maybe I could play for the Yankees, or maybe I could work for the Yankees, or maybe I could, and it's like, then all of a sudden it's just like, well, I can't really work for the Cardinals, but what if I could work with Albert? And I happen to know him, and I know, well, wait, he has a daughter with Down syndrome, but then all of a sudden, all of these, and I can show you the place in my yard where I was mowing, and I'm like, wait a minute. I want to do something in ministry, but I know I'm not a pastor. I know I'm not led to do that. What could that be? And it was just like, boom. What if we did this? So I called my friend Rob, and he was teaching nonprofit marketing. And I'm like, hey, Rob, does this make sense? What would we need to do, and how would we need to do it, and how would we need to structure this? And so I put together this proposal. And again, I mean, I had a great career. And I remember giving it to Dee, and she was like, oh my gosh, this is what we've been praying for. And I met with Albert, and then they kind of like, I don't know that it's time yet. And keep in mind, this was like 2004, like early 2000, and there was no contract. There was no, I mean, he was
Right. I tell people all the time when he didn't have the contract, he was giving free tickets to Josh Hunter.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the second season, they made it a taxable event, and all of a sudden it was like, whoop, no extra tickets.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually my God story about how I kind of met him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So yeah, because there's a great Wayne Hagan story where the day he signed the contract in 2005, Wayne goes down to congratulate him, and he's at batting practice, and Wayne says, hey, yeah, congratulations. And Albert turns with this big grin on his face, and he says, now I get to finish my basement. But that was,
yeah.
I mean, there was an Albert before, before the contract.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was that's the Albert that I'm dealing with. So, and a year goes by, and I see them, but it may have been over a year, and I see Albert at church, and he's like, hey buddy, why don't you come over to the house and we'll talk about the foundation. Okay. So Tuesday or whatever, I go over there and sit around the kitchen table and you could tell, because he was asking the right questions. You could tell he would really it started to sink in, and it started to become like part of him. And that was the thing. It's like, because I told him when I first gave him the proposal, I said, look guys, if you think I'm selling you this, run. If you think I'm trying to sell you anything, run the other direction. Because I'm not. I mean, this is something I think God put on my heart, and if you guys want to do this, you do it. If you don't, that's great. But I feel led to do this. And actually, after I left it with them, it was like, I really felt like I'd done my part. This is what I was called to do. So, so we set the kitchen table, and he was just asking the right questions. He was saying the right things. And I'm like, wow, okay. This is such a big difference than the first time we met a year ago. And then all of a sudden, they called me and said, hey, we want to do this. We want you to run it. And, when do we start? And, and the cool story, another just God story after God story. But this is one of those where I, tell my wife, tell my in-laws, tell my parents, it's like, hey, you know what? I've got this, I'm going to walk away from this career, and I'm going to start a charitable foundation with a kid from the Dominican Republic. And it's like, I've taken a 40% pay cut, and I'm going to, well, what about insurance? Yeah, we don't have any, no, I'm going to have to pay for that on my own, and benefits. And yeah, that's, what about office? Yeah, I'm just going to have to work from home. And they're like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? But I just knew that I knew. It's like, okay, I know that God is leading me here. And it would be a big, big, big mistake to say no. And I just, that you know.
Yeah.
But I will say, when I took that step, and I never forget that first day. I'm like, okay, here I am.
Now what?
Now what? Did I do, and really, you just start, did I do the right thing? But so, we were going to announce the foundation opening day 2005. But if you remember, opening day 2005 was the last opening day in Busch Stadium.
Right.
So Busch Stadium 2. So, we would have been, on page 9 under the obituaries. We would have just been. So it's like, no, we can't do it now. So we said, well, we'll do it in 2 weeks. And I think something came up with Albert, and he couldn't do it. And then I can't remember what, but Albert's agent, or Albert, just said, hey, let's, I forgot, Pittsburgh or somebody, Milwaukee or somebody's coming in. Let's do it the first Tuesday in May. Beautiful. We'll just do it whatever that day was. And I get to the press conference when we're launching the foundation, and I think it was Joe Strauss. And he says, how long have you planned this? And we're like, what? And it's, how long have you planned this? The date, how long have you planned this? And I'm looking at Albert, and it's just like, what are you talking about? And he says, the date, it's 5/5 of '05. How long did you plan this?
That's funny.
And I kid you not, it was just like, it was one of those God winking moments where I sat there and this calm came over me, and it's just like, you are in the center. This is the day that I had planned since the foundation of the earth for this to happen. And as crazy as that sounds, I just felt God tell me that you are in the perfect center of my wheel right now. And it's like, you know what? We're going to be all right. And you know what? And we've never looked back. And I have to say that it hasn't always been easy. And it hasn't always been fun, but there has never been a day where I didn't wake up and not look forward to going to work, and doing what we do and serving the population that we serve.
That's really cool. Your 50th year anniversary will be on 5/5/55.
Yes, it will.
So I'd point that out.
That is good, Scott.
Yeah.
I love how your mind remembers things like that. That's awesome. Yeah. That is really.
Yeah. At the gala, we talked about our 10-year anniversary. We talked about that, and it's like, the first time, because it's not like 2105. I mean, it's 05. First time it happened, Jesus was in preschool. The second time it happened, Beowulf was written. And then the third time it happened, we launched the foundation. So this isn't something that, like, you can't tell me this is an accident. It's too perfect.
No, too coincidental.
It is too coincidental.
No such thing as coincidence.
So now you're doing the foundation, and obviously in St. Louis it's going gangbuster after a while, right? I mean, Albert's the biggest thing in town. I know when I was showing up to those events, you had a lot of people, but then there's another shift, I call it a pivot point, I would guess, in the foundation, because Albert goes out to Los Angeles. How did that change things for you?
That was, when I talk about sometimes it wasn't fun, that wasn't fun. Albert was the mayor of this town, and I don't know, unless you lived through that era, that first 10 years, I don't know that really people understand the name Pujols. I mean, I had the easiest job because I could call anybody up and just say, hey, I'm Todd Perry, I'm the director of the Pujols Foundation, and the door would open. And And it was amazing how there's a scene in the Marx Brothers Night at the Opera where Groucho is unceremoniously fired as the head of the opera house. And the first day, he walks in and, everybody, good morning. And they're, it's doors are opening, an elevator, it says, but the day he gets fired, they grab him by the seat of the pants and they throw him out and they're taking his name off the door. And it was just like, boom. And it was almost, it was almost comedic in how quickly, everything shut down, and we were the villains, and it was just like he was a villain, and they took it out on the foundation. Poor Jen was answering the phone. People were cussing her, and I said, you know what, just go home. We're just going to go home. And
people are amazing, huh?
It's amazing. But I will say that one of the things that we talked about at that kitchen table was that. Indirectly, is one of these days, and this year, one of these days you're going to retire. Now that may be through injury, that may be through, or free agency where you go somewhere else, or there will be a day when you're no longer a Cardinal, and there'll be a day when you're no longer playing. So how do we deal with those things, and especially when we're building something in St. Louis? And And we all agreed. I mean, sitting at that table, we can't build this on Albert. Certainly can't build this on the Cardinals, but we can't build this on Albert. We have to build it on the mission. You have to build it on the people we serve. And I think that decision is the only thing that saved us, because the people, the majority of the big donors, the people that really supported us because they believed in the mission. And now the people that were there just because Albert played baseball, they were gone anyway.
Yeah.
The riffraff.
They were fine people. They're fine donors, but you know what? They're here for Albert. And when Albert's no longer, just like right now, Albert's no longer in your living room 3 hours a night. And so he's kind of dropped down, and, and people are just fickle that way. And it's just like, they're not going to, and they're gone anyway. So I really didn't worry about losing that tier of people. And it was with that tier of people that were the loudest and the meanest.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we came through and we survived simply because I think we built this on the mission and not on Albert. And also because we had the right mix of people that were here for the right reasons. And, even coming back at the gala, I think I think there was one sponsor that didn't come back in 2012 that was there in 2011.
That's awesome.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's praise God. How when you talk about the mission, tell our audience. Some people may know the foundation, but they may not know the mission. What do you guys do?
Well, we serve the Down syndrome community. Albert has a daughter with Down syndrome, Isabella.
Love Isabella.
Yeah, Bella's the best. And but that's, it's something that is very near and dear and authentically connected to Albert. I remember, I think it was our first golf tournament. I did the bullet points for him. And it's like, okay, here we got the press conference before the golf tournament. And I said, here you go. Here's your bullet points. And he looks at it. He said, what is this? I said, it's bullet point. And I got like halfway, and it's like, and he kind of looks at me like, what are you going to tell me about Down syndrome that I don't know? Or what are you going to tell me about global poverty that I haven't experienced? And it was just one of those moments like, you know what? I've never given him bullet point since. Because it's all authentic. It's nothing. He doesn't have to Google it. He's lived it. So I think that being our strength, the authenticity of our mission is really probably our greatest strength as an organization. Because that is something, and even in 2004, they had means and resources that most families with Down syndrome didn't have. And I think coming from where they were with Isabella, and then all of a sudden, well, we got all these resources now. I think they saw the gap. And they said, what if we can close that gap by creating awareness, creating events, programs that we can offer free of charge to the community. And we can do this, and we can get everybody to the same level that and care Isabella's getting. And that's one of the things that we've been doing for the last, this is our 19th year.
That's awesome.
In the community. And then the second half is, to Albert's credit, when he grew up in poverty in the Dominican Republic, he said, this is, if I ever make something of myself, I'll never forget where I came from. And of course, the people that say that always leave and they forget where they came from. But, I got to give Albert credit. He never, ever forgot that promise. And it was authentic promise to himself that he said, no, I need to do this. And we need to do this half for Down syndrome, but half for the DR. And so we bring medical teams, mission teams, doctors, dentists, pediatricians. We have a full pharmacy that goes with us. We have optometry. And we go into the Bateyes, which are the slums in the Dominican Republic, and we serve the poorest of the poor. And then we also have some other humanitarian programs. We have a baseball league. We have a sewing school for women. We have English classes that are happening right now, matter of fact. And there's a group from Edward Jones that goes down and helps us with building homes, church. I mean, the things that are needed in the community. So there's a lot of resources that are, I think we're better known for the mission work, but there's a lot of resources outside of that.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who are involved in different ways, from doing dental work. I know a few of those. And I remember when you guys brought down the mattresses one year, you guys brought a bunch of mattresses because people didn't really have a bed they'd sleep on and those. So, I've
and it's hard for a lot. I mean, and it's even hard for me sometimes, even now, to wrap my head around global poverty and the way people really live in the rest of the world. Right. And like you say, a mattress, a clean, safe place to sleep. It's something that you would think that, everybody would have access to that, but actually, in these Bateyes, it's just amazing how many people sleep on the ground, and how many people are these mattresses are really just old clothes or things that they've stuffed in a sheet, and it's they just don't have a dry, clean place to sleep, and it's it really breaks your heart. I remember that was one of the. Oh my gosh, the first time we delivered those beds, I remember this, and I remember the house. Take you to it right now. And I had to walk out of that house, and I went behind that house and I cried like a baby. It just broke my heart. The way people live and just the things we take for granted every day. Right.
I remember that. I remember when you mentioned baseball too. I remember Albert talking about that and how that kind of came about on the trip down there, that he and you talked, and it got just laid on his heart, and you guys did it the following year, and how that drew men back, because he was sharing how the men would go to the cities or to go work, and the women would be stuck there with the kids often, and there was not a reason for them to come back. And he shared that by having that, they gave them, they go home to play baseball, watch baseball, see their kids play, and it brought them back to their spouses, and it made happy families. And
well, it's the fatherlessness is epidemic there, and it's that machismo thing where, you're a man if you're having a number of kids with a number of different baby mamas, and you're just that's your virility, and it's just this nonsense of that I guess the underbelly of that culture. And that was one of the things that Albert's I got to reach these young men, and we're on the plane. He's like, I got to reach these young men, and I don't know what we're going to do. And while we were there, this boy just walks up and says, Albert, when are you going to start a baseball league? And it's like, that's it. I mean, we can mentor these boys through baseball, because you can do it through the church, and you'll have 6-7 kids come, but you do it through baseball. I mean, for the last 12 years, we've mentored 150 boys a year through that program.
That's awesome.
And and you can see it in the community. You can see what's happening in the lives of these boys and the lives of the community. But to your point, having these men come back, and now they're engaged in their sons' lives because their sons are playing in this league and their sons are playing baseball. And it's something that, we don't take lightly, because it's a huge part of what we want to see happening in that culture and in that certain Batey. But unfortunately, the moms, the women are these guys will come through, and they'll have a chicken and a bag of oranges, and they'll stay for a week, and then they'll leave, and she's pregnant, and it's like, well, here we go again. And they're just, and it's this this lifestyle that perpetuates poverty. And a lot of these women, I mean, I met a 26-year-old grandmother. Let me do the math on that. And, there's a better way. And that's the thing that we really go and we really preach and we try to model and we try to live in these communities.
Yeah, we had a pastor on I guess now it's been a little while, but Pastor Pete that was sharing about, he was in Kenya and how the kids would go to this children's home, and when the girls would start their menstrual cycles, they'd have to go somewhere to find garments to take care of them, and the men they come back and they'd be pregnant. Yeah, and they just by providing those undergarments, I think he said none of them had gotten pregnant this last year, maybe one. I mean, it was either none or one. Yeah, out of I think they had 30 or 60 the year before. I mean, it was incredibly effective. Yeah, to be able to provide just basic needs that were needed and telling them that they had worth.
Yeah, and Bernardo Kecke, who worked for us for years, and the Lord called him home last year. But but he would always talk about the psychology of poverty. And when I first met him, I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, poverty has to do with, the haves and the have-nots. And I was very naive at the time thinking it was actually a financial gap. But oh my gosh, he is so dead. I mean, there is this understanding of your worth, that you are, you're wonderfully and fearfully made. You are a child of God. I mean, that's never really grasped in some of these areas. That, I mean, there's a batey that we go to. It's Las Bajas. It's way out in the middle of nowhere, and we were there. It was pre-pandemic, so say 2019, 2018. And I remember I was sitting with the leaders in their community, and these are the teachers and the pastors and the people in their community. And I remember asking them, I said, what do you want for your children? It was crickets. And they looked at each other. And I realized not only had they never been asked that, they'd never thought about it. It had never crossed their mind that, oh, wait a minute, my daughter, my son can have a better life, it's never crossed their mind. And again, the psychology of poverty and really understanding, you're not in Kansas anymore. I mean, this is a completely different world. It's a completely different mindset. And, and again, it's there are moments like that where it still surprises me. It still shocks me that I really have a hard time getting my mind around and my head around that there are people that are completely disconnected from the fact that I want my child or I expect my child or I want them, or even that they could live a better life than I live or a different life than I live. And it's, again, I mean, it is something that is really humbling and shocking at times to see.
So I want to shift gears just a little bit. Down syndrome. What all do you guys do for Down syndrome? I know that we talked about Bella and how sweet she is, but you guys do some other stuff. We kind of got into what you guys do from the mission side. What do you guys do for them right now? So.
Well, on the Down syndrome side, we have programs and events, and we'll do about 100 events a year.
Awesome.
And really, it centers around a couple of different buckets, and one of those buckets is life skills, which we want to make sure that that where we can come in and try to teach people with Down syndrome, because even in my lifetime, the life expectancy 50 years ago for a person with Down syndrome was 30. And today the life expectancy is well into their 60s. So that's wonderful, but it does create challenges now for parents saying, okay, well, because before the children weren't likely to outlive them, but now they are. So it's like, okay, well, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. And what we do is we try to address a lot of those issues, and one of the things that's probably one of the most popular things that we do right now is our cooking classes, which we've been running for probably 12 or 15 years. But and the interesting thing was when we first started them, even though it's by far one of the most popular things, and we usually have a waiting list, but it wasn't really accepted very well. And you got to run this back, 15 years ago. But, and we would say, well, heck, can you, would you like to be a part? Whoa, no. We never let Johnny in the kitchen. And it's like, but Johnny's 30. And it's like, oh, no, he can't be around the stove, or they can't be around the knives. And I think one of the things that through the program, the Batter Up, the program for cooking classes, is we really surprise the parents, because it teaches them how to use a knife. It teaches them how to use a stove, how to use the oven, how to use, and how to measure. And it's just amazing how many people now says, oh, well, Johnny cooks every Thursday night. We just let him cook. And it's just like, well, and it was 10 years ago, you wouldn't let Johnny in the kitchen. And it's just like, yeah, this is the kind of stuff that we love to hear. And we really see the difference being made. And it's just amazing. But the well-being is also a huge part of it, and part of part of the underbelly, unfortunately, of people with developmental disabilities is a person with developmental disabilities is 6 times more likely to be sexually assaulted than you or I. And a female with developmental disabilities is 12 times more likely to be assaulted. And there's data, they're now one of the targeted areas of identity theft. I mean, it's just crazy, the stuff so one of the things that we did years ago is we started conflict resolution and self-defense classes for people with Down syndrome. So if you get into a situation that you feel uncomfortable or something's happening that's inappropriate, you know how to respond appropriately. But from that, we ended up taking this through. Dwight Trower is the guy that does these classes, but where you can actually earn your belts, and we have. Last count was probably 25 people right now that earned a black belt through this program. And, but it's again, you see a problem, and it's just like, that's not okay. That's not okay that these people are, this population of people are being targeted this way. But it's like, okay, well, we can just, complain about it, or we can do something about it. And I think this is our way of saying, you know what, we're going to offer these classes, and we're going to offer these opportunities free of charge. Just go and so your family can feel safe. You can feel safe. And, and if you get bullied, you know what, maybe you can give it back to the bully, because this isn't okay. And it's not right to live in a world like this. And, But the biggest bucket that we have is socialization. And you look at that, and at first, you're like, well, that's. I had somebody first, and it's like, well, you throw nice parties, and it's like, yeah, well, we do, but you're missing the point. When a person with developmental disabilities graduates high school, there are studies that will say that 3%, 3 out of 100 will find full-time employment. Well, that leaves 97% that are usually spending time at home. Many of these people are spending as much as 15 hours, 16 hours in front of an electronic device, and every day just looks the same. And that's not living. It's not okay. And we are going to do everything we can to push back on that and say that's, again, this isn't, the abundant life Christ called us to. And so through all that, we have just a constant barrage of social activities, events that connects people with Down syndrome, that connects, everyone else in the world with a person with Down syndrome or a family with Down syndrome. We have mother events, mother-daughter events. We have father-son events. And it's just one of those things that it's just blown up in this community where there really is a village now where people with Down syndrome can thrive and learn from each other. And it is, it's just awesome to see. And this year we're bringing back, because we had to shut it down for COVID, but we're bringing back the prom.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. It's, and for those that don't know, we have hosted a prom since 2006. And it's, they would be happy with the record player in the basement of the church, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this has always been, we're like, you know what? This should be the best party in St. Louis, period. And right now I'll put it up against anything. It is the best party in St. Louis. We have it at the Ritz-Carlton. Smash band plays. We have 15 food vendors. It is absolutely just lights out. And in 2019, the last time we had it, I think there was over 700 people with Down syndrome there. So it is just, the place is rocking. And it's just one of those nights where I can talk the rest of the afternoon and not even scratch the surface on how incredible this night is. And there's so many stories that come out of, this young man that, I heard this story where he's 30 years old. He's never been on a date. And he gets the invitation to the prom. And he goes to his mom and he says, I want to invite Katie. And his mom's like, oh, really? You want to go on a date? Yeah. And but he met Katie through a self-defense class. And so she calls Katie's mom and says, hey, just so you know, he's going to invite Katie to the prom. I think that'd be a good idea. Okay. So, and now Katie's never been on a date either. And she's 30-ish. And so for the first time, she goes and gets a prom dress. For the first time, he gets his suit and he gets to buy the flowers and they go and they pick and they come to, I can't even imagine. But the best part of this story is, now they come to each, they'll on Friday nights, they'll either go, they'll have they used to call it a Red Box night, but now I guess it's a Netflix night where, and they're talking about getting married and they're, and and all of a sudden you've got this young man again, who was sitting at home watching TV on Friday night. And his life was black and white, boring. Just every day was the same. And then all of a sudden, we just mail him an invitation. And now he's got a girlfriend. He's got a date every Friday night. He's got something, they talk on the phone every day. And now his life went from black and white to 4K living color. And I can't tell you over and over and over and over and over and over the stories we hear like that. And it's like, oh, well, you guys throw nice parties. Yeah, we do.
For a reason.
Yeah, we do. And you know what? And these parties are changing people's lives.
Amen. Can't tell this guy's passionate about it, can you?
No.
I love it.
You just ooze it. It's why we get up in the morning. It is. I just love, there's just nothing better than knowing that you're making a significant impact in somebody's life. Because I think about, and again, I rewind to the first half of this conversation where, I'm working in corporate America and by all intents and purposes, I'm successful in corporate America, but how few people at the end of the day, really get to look back and say, I made a difference today. And again, there's, nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with anything that I did. It's just, now I can actually say, I think we all, well, I know we all yearn for significance. And to be able to have something like this foundation, and I get this question all the time, especially over the last 5 years. It's like, you need a $50 donation, but Albert makes $30 million. So how does that work? You're asking me for $50, but he makes $30 million. How does that work? And I just kind of shake my head, because it's like, don't you understand? This is your blessing. It's like church. God doesn't need your money. Who are we kidding? God doesn't need your money. Why do you give to church? Because it's for you. It's not for it's not for God. It's for you. It's the blessing you get. It's what you get back for that small investment is infinitely more important, significant than what you gave. And it's exactly what happens here, where it's like, then keep the $50, because I'm telling you, whatever you invest, I promise you, it will come back, in ways you never expected, and in an amount you've never expected. That and this is a perfect case of that, where how many people get to say, I made a difference today. And look and be able to see the people whose lives are changing, and that's one of the things I love about the foundation, and we are so transparent. Because there are organizations, and there's nothing wrong with this, there's organizations that you give money to, and you're like, well, I know they're doing good stuff. It's like, well, what are they doing? I just know it's good. And it is. And I'm not, but here, it's like,
yeah, you see all the different ones, and you guys put out a lot of stuff so people can, when you guys get on the Bateyes or whatever, you're always putting stuff out.
Go with us.
Yeah,
come with us. You want to see what your money's going to? Giddy up, let's go. Come with us. We are all about that, and it's so transparent. You want to come to the prom? Let's go. You want to? Let's do it. I want you to see. Talk to the moms. Talk to the people. If you want to be a donor here, yeah, I'm not gonna walk you around and have a scripted story. No, go to the prom. Just start talking to people. They'll tell you. Over and over and over, the significance, and to be able to say, hey, you know what? I was a part of that, and that's where. Get out of here. How do you beat that? And how can you not be passionate about that when it starts happening? And that's why I think people keep coming back. What is it? The Psalm, taste the Lord and see that he is good. We could put that on our front door. I'm not selling you anything. I don't have anything to sell. Just taste the Lord and see he's good. Come on in.
That's awesome.
Get on a plane. Come on. You know what? If you can go to the DR and you can see the work we do, and you can say, a nice little trip, but I don't think this is for me. Okay, then. I can't even imagine anybody like saying, Well,
we had a guy on not too long ago, Kyle, who participated and it changed his whole life. He left his corporate career. Now he's in Honduras. Yeah. So.
And I don't expect everybody to do that, but I had a guy that was, he's a significant donor to the foundation, and I was kind of preparing him for what we're going to see in the DR, and he's like, and he kind of tapped me on the arm, just so I've been to India, I've been to the slums in India, I've been to the slums here, and he's just, and he's a world traveler, and it's like, he said, I understand poverty, I've seen poverty. Okay, no, we're good. So we take him to one of the Bateyes, and it happens to be Alamon, which we're very, very, where our baseball league is and our Congracia program is. And, he starts meeting people, and these are people that we have served for years, and they're part of our family, and they take us into their home, and they're, and then you go to the neck, and they're taking us into their home, and we're meeting their children, and we're seeing their babies, and and he gets to the hotel, and he's like, wow, I didn't expect that. and it's just like, he said, I've never seen anything like, because, you're on a bus. And we've had doctors, it's like, well, I had a doctor go with us once, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm a veteran of these things, I've got it. And then we get there, and I said, hey, get a backpack. He said, what? And I said, get a backpack. We're going into the homes. Oh, and he's like, no, I've never, because we're like hotel to the clinic, back on the bus, hotel, back on the bus to the clinic. He said, no, I had no idea the way they were living. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, they come and they're wearing their very best. I didn't know that person lived there. It's like, no, you're coming with us. We're going into in this, because it's like, the sickest people can't get to us. We got to go to them. So we go down into the underbelly, into the guts of the Batey, and man, whoo, you get to see it, and you get to smell it, and you get to really experience it on a level that, and we bring back the videos and all, but it just,
Yeah, they don't do justice.
oh no, it just, you have to be there and taste it and smell it and really get to know the people. And, that's the thing that I think, again, I don't know how anybody could go on one of these trips and experience the things that we've experienced and not come back changed.
So the guy who graduated from Clarkson, running Pujols Foundation, but most people don't know, I say Clarkson, Clarksville. So, but the one thing that I've always found interesting, because now it ties it together. I knew you were artistic. I wasn't sure the whole background there. Is how you do the pictures every year for the gala, and that you did those, and they're always amazing. I got several of them in my basement that I just.
It's again, it's God winking at me that. Because I will say that once I started being an illustrator for a living, that was one of the things that's like, it took the fun out. And the last thing I wanted to do, because I'm drawing things corporately, and then I go home and it's just like, why don't you do something for yourself? That's the last thing I want to do. It's like the plumber's house has always got the leaky pipes, because it's the last thing he wants to do when he gets home. And I felt that, but I think in God's perfect sense of humor, he brought me full circle to where I'm doing something completely different. But he said, hey, here's a way that I can use your talent, your education, your ability, and you get to do whatever you want to do. And you can paint this, and what he's referring to is every year at our gala, Albert gives a gift to the attendees, and he'll sign a print. And every year it's always kind of a milestone, because Albert happens to just click milestones off every year. So, every year there's whatever milestone he hit that year, there's a commemorative image that Albert will sign. But those paintings, and I'll give Dana Ashley, who was working with us, she's the one that actually encouraged me to do that. She said, hey, why don't you paint the gift? And I'm like, what? That would be fun. And now it's fun again. So for the last, I guess since 2000, first one I did was 2007. So from 07 to, and I've already got this year's done. So through 23, I've been painting the image that is the print for O Night Divine.
They're amazing. I love
thank
them.
you.
I love them.
I love doing them.
Some of the, they're, I brought in unprominent stuff in this room, a few things, and there are prominent things in my basement that are still part of my man cave that my kids have taken over, but they still hang proudly. So,
well, thank you.
yeah, those are cool. So, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I think we can kind of land it here for right now, but maybe we'll get you back to get some more stories about Pujols Foundation and upcoming things. By the way, where are we going from here? So, if somebody wants to get involved, and then what do you guys have coming up? So,
well, we actually have two of our biggest fundraisers kind of pushed back to the end of the year. Coming up in September the 14th, is a Top Golf event that Albert's hosting here in Chesterfield. And so we just put out the information this week on it. So we're there are still bays available. We did sell out last year, so we anticipate that happening again. But we would love to see new people. We would love to have people attend and get to know us, get to know more about the foundation, and we can get to know them. I guess the second thing, which is the gala, it's December 9th this year. It's at the Ritz, and you get a signed print. You get a signed print painted by me, signed by Albert, and but it is our. I always say it's my year-end board meeting in front of 500 people, because we just get to talk about what we've done, and we get to talk about where we're going, and it's one of the highlights of the year for me, because we really get to share with a lot of the people who are directly instrumental in our success, what we've been able to accomplish. And I think it's also great for people to come who has no idea what we do, or to really kind of get a feel for the weight and the impact that we're having in the community. But that's December 9th this year at the Ritz-Carlton, and they can reach out to us if you just go info at pujolsfamilyfoundation.org. That's the best way to reach us, or they can just call at 314-878-2105.
all right. Well, we'll get that and put that in the show notes along with the website, so that people can be checking in and see where they can volunteer and help out. I mean, you need volunteers, and if somebody sees if somebody sees a need with Down syndrome, or maybe they call you up and they say there's a need and I can help you fill it. Sounds like you got people who are already doing like the defense training and stuff. I imagine these people have a passion for it too. So
yeah, and that's something that and thank you for mentioning that, because I still see people with Down syndrome and give them my card, and it's just like, oh, I didn't know this was in. So yeah, I mean, we're always, I mean, anyone is welcome. If you have a person with Down syndrome, any age, we connect. We have a new mother's luncheon every year, and we're connecting the new moms. And then there was a gentleman at the ballpark he was 61. He was my age, with Down syndrome, that I didn't know. I'd never seen him before. And so yeah, we're always wanting to connect families and people, and there's something for everybody. So yeah, if you know someone with Down syndrome, send them our way. And again, everything we do is completely at no cost to the families.
awesome. That's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And for those who are listening in, thank you for listening in. Don't forget to
like and subscribe and check out the Pujols Foundation.
There you go. And we're excited about that. So until the next episode, we'll catch you.